Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome here. And we thank all of you who have found out time from your busy schedules to come here and celebrate the contribution of my colleague, my mentor, my ex-boss, Dr. or Professor Colin Lazarus. We pediatric surgeons like to tell stories. So I'll tell a very short one. I met Dr. Lazarus exactly 31 and a half years ago in Glasgow. So I had gone there from Pune, Mumbai to Glasgow, and he came from East London, Cape Town to Glasgow. He was quite senior, so he was at a higher position, and I was SHO. I learned a lot of things from him. I learned how to do rigid esophagoscopy from him there. And today's date is very significant for me because exactly 31 years ago, on the 14th of September, 1994, Mrs. Lazarus will remember that Colin, I take his permission to call him by his first name. He invited me, my wife, and our infant son to his flat. And he told me that he was going to go back to his town called East London. I had no idea where it was, and start a new department of pediatric surgery. And if I wanted to join him, he could arrange for registration and job interview telephonically. So I took advice of my professor mentor there, and he told me that if you're looking for experience and Colin is inviting you, close your eyes and go. And so we did this African adventure, and here we are, 31 and a half years later. Our dreams have been fulfilled, I can say, of establishing a nationally and internationally recognized Department of Pediatric Surgery in this so-called slummiest town in East London, in the corner of Africa, which many colleagues from the country do not know where it is. And it is so appropriate that today we stand here to celebrate and recognize his contribution. So without further ado, I invite our Honorable Executive Dean, Professor Kita, to say a few words about Professor Lazarus's contribution to WSU. Thank you, Prof. Kita.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you, Program Director, Professor Chitnis, for the opportunity to say a few words on this special day in the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences of Walter Sisulu University. On behalf of our Vice Chancellor, University Management, and the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, I would like to extend our warm greetings to Professor Colin Lazarus and his family. The guest speaker of the day, Professor Samad Shaikh. I did not see that my founding boss is here. I want to recognize that. Very happy to have you here. Our invited guests, Associate Dean Dr. Jafta, members of the Faculty Executive Committee that are here, members of the leadership in this deanery that are here, our teachers, our clinicians, researchers, and health workers. I also would like to extend our greetings to our CEOs, our clinical managers, our students, and the broader community that is watching us virtually today. I am proud to stand here today to welcome you to today's lecture in honor of one of the greatest sons of the Eastern Cape and a distinguished surgical professional and scholar. The year 2025 will go down as one of the most important years in the life of our faculty as we celebrate 40 years since our founding. The milestone cannot be measured only in terms of years, but also in the contribution we have made as a faculty to the development and sustenance of the health sector in South Africa in general, but with an explicit bias to the Eastern Cape and the rural and underserved areas of our country. And therefore, as part of our endeavor to highlight the contribution of this faculty, we present this honorary lecture today as a way of recognizing the significant contribution that Professor Lazarus has made in the delivery and strengthening of health services in general, but especially surgical services within the province. This lecture is Walter Sisulu University's and specifically the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences way of formally expressing our appreciation of Professor Lazarus' contribution, influence and guidance over the many years in which he has been part of the faculty and the health service platform in the Eastern Cape. Honorary lectures are an opportunity to officially recognize and pay tribute to those amongst us who deserve special recognition for their work, dedication, contribution, and to celebrate their accomplishments during the course of their career and the legacy that they leave behind in their area of work as they go into retirement. The honorary lecture also serves as an opportunity for the lecturer to share their own wisdom and insights, reflect on their career, provide guidance, and inspire future generations, leaving a lasting and positive impression. Allow me to share with you a summarized version of Professor Colin Lazarus' bio to reflect his journey from the beginning up to his professional and academic achievements as a pediatric surgeon. Professor Colin Lazarus was born on the 9th of April in 1943 in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape and spent his childhood in the nearby town of Maclear. From an early age, he developed a strong sense of service and care for others. He later married his wife, Sheila, and together they have two children, Jan and John, who's now a professor of urology at the University of Cape Town. And they also have three grandchildren, Sarah, Aran, and Daniel. Professor Lazarus completed his MPhD degree at the University of Cape Town in 1968 and later achieved the fellowship in surgery in 1979. His early professional years were devoted to mission hospitals, where from 1976 to 1979, he worked at Mount Coke Hospital, and thereafter at Moroga Methodist Hospital in Tabanchu. These years instilled in him resilience, adaptability, and acquisition of skills for his future surgical career. Following his qualification in surgery, Professor Lazarus then dedicated over a decade to general surgery at Cecilia Makiwane Hospital in East London from 1980 to 1993. By 1995, he transitioned fully into pediatric surgery, becoming the principal pediatric surgeon and head of the Eastern Cape Pediatric Surgical Service at Frere and Cecilia Makiwane Hospitals, a role he held until 2008. Professor Lazarus served as the president of the South African Association of Pediatric Surgeons from 2012 to 2016 and was a member of its executive from 2000 to 2020. He also played a pivotal roles in College of Pediatric Surgeons of South Africa, serving as Secretary of Council from 2010 to 2017, examiner from 2001 to 2012, and examinations moderator from 2013 to 2018. His scholarly contributions include editing 2 trauma handbooks and publishing 23 peer-reviewed papers covering various surgical topics such as esophageal cancer, spinal tuberculosis, and pediatric surgical topics. For his contributions, Professor Lazarus was honored through the J.H. Lowe Lecturer by the South African Association of Pediatric Surgeons in 2018 and received honorary membership of the Indian Association of Pediatric Surgeons. He served as academic coordinator for Walter Sisulu University Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences from 2010 to 2019, and later became associate dean and professor in the faculty until his retirement at the end of 2024. In these leadership roles, he was instrumental in expanding undergraduate and postgraduate training programs and driving research development in the Central Deanery. During his tenure, a total of 91 specialists and subspecialists were successfully trained in the region. He also played a central role in establishing the East London Health Resource Centre, which has served as a critical anchor point for the coordination and facilitation of medical teaching and training within the Central Deanery Academic Health Platform. Beyond medicine and surgery, Professor Lazarus embraced and took up endurance sport as a way of ensuring a healthy balance in his life. He completed 9 Two Oceans Marathon, 7 Comrades Marathons, and 18 Cape Town cycle tours. His passion for cycling merged with philanthropy, through which he helped raise funds for Eyabantwana Children's Trust, an organization he co-founded to support public sector pediatric surgical services in this region. With fellow cyclists of Granddad's Army, he completed 6 memorial rides from East London to Cape Town in the period 2016 to 2021, and 3 heritage rides from Mapungubwe in Limpopo to East London in the period 2019 to 2023. To you, Professor Lazarus, I would like to say that as a university community, but also as part of the greater community of the Eastern Cape, we would like to express our gratitude for your commitment and dedication to providing high quality health care in this region of the Eastern Cape. You have fought a good fight. You have completed the race with aplomb. And I may add, you have kept the faith. We are grateful for your life and still hope to continue to draw from your well of wisdom. We wish you good health as you enjoy your retirement after a solid 56-year career starting from 1969. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we honor our veteran and the beloved son of the Eastern Cape, Professor Colin Lazarus. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dean, Prof Kita. It was a really wonderful eulogy to Professor Lazarus. Now I am pleased to invite Dr. Selo Machaya. And Dr. Machaya is my right and left-hand man in the Department of Pediatric Surgery in East London. Both Prof. Lazarus and I are very proud that he did full training under our supervisorship, and for last almost 6 years, he is a very valuable colleague in the department. There is probably I take his advice once or twice every week. So I welcome him, and he's going to say a few words of what he has learned and how he has learned from Prof. Lazarus, and then he will also introduce our speaker, Professor Samad Sheikh. Selo.
Good evening, all protocols observed. I saw on the program it said Dr. Machaya is a previous mentee of Prof. Lazarus. Well, I still see Prof Lazarus not only as a mentor, but as a fatherly figure. He has been instrumental in molding my career path to such an extent of reverting to psychological blackmail and making me stay in East London. Prof Lazarus once told me, being in East London is like rowing in a boat that's going upstream. You find it difficult every single day to stay afloat and go forward. But if you persist, you still make small, steady steps. I could have interpreted that saying as him basically trying to say that you will not succeed in the Eastern Cape. You have to move. Your career is going to stagnate here. But I chose to see it in a different light. What I actually learned from that saying was that as much as I don't see a change in myself in moving forward, the little bit of change I'm making is more significant to the surrounding community. And should I stop rowing up that stream, it's not only me who will be swept down the stream, but it will be the community that I'm currently serving that will lose out on the benefit of us being here. So that on its own kind of made me realize how important it is to actually try and help where you can. Row upstream, even though it's difficult, because you realize the change and impact you'll have in the future. You achieve great heights by standing on the shoulders of giants. I feel honored to have been lifted to these heights by great giants like Prof Chitness, Prof Lazarus, and the large gentle giant who I'll be introducing today, Prof Sheikh. After completing his undergraduate training at the University of Natal Medical School, Professor Sheikh undertook specialization in general surgery and further training in vascular surgery in Durban. He then completed advanced management program in healthcare management through the UK-based Manchester Business School in 1999 and was awarded the Fogarty International Fellowship in Medical Informatics, Telemedicine, and Robotics. He undertook this training at Tufts University, Harvard University, and MIT Boston in the US. During this time, he was fortunate enough to be exposed to fetal surgery intervention and artificial intelligence that were being explored at the time. He then returned to South Africa and completed his subspecialization in pediatric surgery and followed this with training in fetal and neonatal medicine in Nice, France, and further onwards in Belgium. He returned to full-time academic practice in 2014 and was appointed head of division in Stellenbosch in February 2014. He subsequently returned back to KZN to form his private practice, where he's an honorary senior lecturer in the Department of Pediatric Surgery. He is currently serving his third term as the president of the College of Pediatric Surgery of South Africa. He's the current president of the South African Association of Pediatric Surgery, is the director of the CMSA, and the honorary registrar of the Educational Committee of the CMSA. So you wonder, where does he get time to actually do anything but work? Well, outside the operating room, Prof Sheikh brings the same precision and patience to a range of unique and rather fascinating hobbies. A passionate bonsai cultivator, he enjoys the art of shaping miniature trees and exercise in mindfulness and long-term vision. When he's not nurturing greenery, you'll likely find him out in the open water, indulging in deep-sea fishing or exploring marine life through scuba diving. Funny enough, we were having a Zoom meeting trying to organize our SAPS conference earlier on this year, and he was having the Zoom meeting from the boat while deep-sea fishing. So it quite showed that he's quite an avid deep-sea fisher. He also maintains a marine aquarium at home, combining his love for aquatic ecosystem and scientific curiosity. His interest in detail and craftsmanship extend to model building as well, where he enjoys constructing intricate scale replicas, another hobby that reflects his steady hand and eye to fine detail. He shares many of these passions with his wife and 2 daughters, whether it's a quiet afternoon tending to the bonsai, a 4x4 trip in the wild, or time spent together enjoying games and building models. And when it's time to unwind, he does what all boys do. He turns to gaming, a hobby that keeps him strategically thinking sharp and his inner adventure satisfied. That's just code for he's still a child at heart. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to welcome on the podium Prof Samit Sheikh, who will give today's public lecture in honor of Prof Colin Lazarus. Thank you.
Thank you, Cyril, for that introduction. Good evening, Professor Chita, Dr. Jafta, Prof Chitnis, Prof Lazarus, and all of those who have attended in person and online. I would like to express my gratitude to Prof Chitnis for inviting me to share my thoughts on artificial intelligence at such a special occasion to honor and pay tribute to a remarkable colleague. I mean, as we honor a surgeon who has given his brain, his heart, and his calves from all those miles of cycling to medicine in general, and to pediatric surgery in particular, it is only fitting that we talk about intelligence, both actual and artificial. Prof Colin Lazarus has always stood for actual intelligence, the thoughtful, compassionate kind. My background, just to give you an idea in terms of my background as to why I could talk about this topic, in terms of my qualifications to address this topic, is mainly as an enthusiast. It's certainly not from an expert point of view. It stems from almost 20 years of 20 years ago when I spent time in Boston completing a fellowship in medical informatics. Part of that training was in terms of decision analysis, and decision analysis is simply a flow diagram which gives a probability to each choice that you make. If it's yes, 10% chance of success. If it's no, it's a 90% chance of success. And you work down a tree the same way we work on a daily basis looking at our patients. And that was the very early foundation of artificial intelligence. Over the time, in my private practice and in the academic practice, I was consulting for the healthcare funding bodies. They obviously have a lot invested in terms of medicine and the actuarial sciences, and now we play a bit of a role in terms of governance. And most recently, we are negotiating with developing a database that will look at congenital anomalies from a database of 25% of the population in South Africa that we have access to. So overall, when we look at artificial intelligence, we have to look at how there has been a transition in terms of us practicing surgery to artificial intelligence. It's all over the place, it's everywhere. In radiology, it's reading scans and x-rays. Many of these are free. The University of Witwatersrand has just introduced their own system of looking at x-rays from the African continent, which specifically can make diagnosis of, I think, about 26 conditions, they said, which should be freely available very soon. In medical education, it is already setting our exam questions. The CMSA has a huge program in terms of artificial intelligence. It is even writing some of our discharge summaries. Many of us recall our post-call being tired, going through all of these summaries. And then now we have the interns who are still doing that, unfortunately. In my practice, it plays a huge role in terms of administration. I have Heidi sitting in the background, listening in on my conversation with the patient, and at the end of the consultation, she can generate all my notes, a referral letter, a script, all in the short period of time. And that's all if it's ready before the patient can leave the office. So in administration, it is playing a really important role. It also plays lots of roles in other places. Your cars, the cars that park automatically, the cars that self-drive, your refrigerators, and other forms. In healthcare funding, it plays an important role, but I think all they want to try and do is see how little they can give us for the more money that we give them, similar to the principle that SARS uses. So AI itself it's not new. It's been a concept since around the 1950s when Alan Turing thought or described the intelligence as being that we should base artificial intelligence on the way a child thinks rather than the way an adult thinks. And in that way there, we would be able to get a better idea of what goes on through the mind. Adult thinking is fairly fixed. Children think in a fairly flexible fashion, and that's what we realize as pediatric surgeon. What is new and what has brought this to the forefront has been generative AI. Generative AI is a lot newer. It started around in 2019. I'll briefly discuss that in a little while. But what's important about it is that there are only a few engines which form the basis of all the different types of AI that you are probably familiar with, whether it is ChatGPT or whether it's Copilot on Microsoft, DeepSeek, it doesn't matter which one of it is. There are only a couple of engines. And what's important about these engines is that they draw the information from limited data sets. And that's something to keep at the back of your mind when you try some of the hacks that I will tell you about in a little while. If we look at generative AI, and we can think of it as a computer system or an algorithm that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. It involves algorithms, it involves machine learning, it involves a number of different types of terminology. We don't really need to know that. We don't know how Windows works, but we can use it. We don't know how Word works in the background, but we use it efficiently to publish articles, and the same with Excel. But there are a number of different mechanisms, and each one of these mechanisms extends depending on the type of knowledge that is used or the type of algorithms that are being used. So the simulation of human intelligence by using software that codes for these algorithms will give rise to what we call generative AI. And the important difference about generative AI is that it is designed to create new and original content. That is what makes it different from Google, for example. So all of this is based on a language model. Over the time, what has happened is that the computers have started becoming more cheaply available, it's widely available, so it can look at language. And what Google has been doing for a very long time is that it has been able to use this language model by using prediction. So if you type in Hirschsprungs, the next word in terms of all the selections it gives you at the bottom list will say disease. Once you choose disease, it will then say AI. Once you choose AI, it may say surgery, and that's what it does in terms of its language model. But what Google does very well is that it produces real-time information. It is up to date, and it allows you to click on a link so it's immediately verifiable. That is an important difference between Google and ChatGPT, because many people want to know, so why don't you just use Google and get the answer to the question that you want? The important difference is that ChatGPT tries to mimic a conversation with you. It provides a consolidated answer. It uses the creative methods and it uses specific content generation, but more importantly is that it uses only the database that it has most recently been trained with, and that's about 2021 to 2024. So in terms of the ChatGPT, because this is one of the commonest models that we use, in 2019 it started off and it could generate text, human-like text in paragraphs. By 2020, GPT-3 had been launched, and this was already able to write essays which were indistinguishable from human text. It was also trained to follow instructions in English, and it had the ability to learn commands that were not already coded in. The most current version is the GPT-4. It has trillions of parameters. It has a massive database. The database is up to date to about 2023, 2024. And it is a general purpose AI system with a chat interface which allows you to communicate with the actual program. Each session is started by entering a prompt. Prompt is a new word, the word that you've got to remember, and it's probably the most important word that you will learn from this entire talk. And the way you design the prompt and the way you engineer the prompt will result in the type of answers that you get from the ChatGPT. The response is conversational, it's quick. In fact, they are already trying to decrease the personality of ChatGPT because so many people use ChatGPT as a friend. Context is maintained in the response and all the ones that go down. And as I mentioned earlier, the prompt is probably the far most important determinant of the output. So what is intelligence anyway? I mean, there are different ways to look at intelligence. For us, we can use actual intelligence as being what you and I would use on the ward round. I mean, tongue-in-cheek, I could say artificial intelligence is what our junior registrars use during the same ward rounds that we do. But artificial intelligence is an application of different methods. Like, I use the car regularly because, I mean, I've seen a car recently that parks parallel parking better than my wife does. but it parks very well. So artificial intelligence is that using practical sort of approaches. I've spent almost 2 decades in pediatric surgery. I've worked with the tiniest patients, the most tense theater teams, sometimes the most terrifying young doctors, but I am more intimidated by artificial intelligence and its application than any of the other interventions or the technological advances that have come through. And that will probably become clear as we go along. So today, as we honor a surgeon who has given his brain to all of this, we realize that actual intelligence is by far more important, and the thoughtful, compassionate kind of mentor that Prof Lazarus has been will ultimately show up as we go through this talk in terms of differentiating actual from artificial intelligence. Simply put, actual intelligence is the ability to learn from experience. It's the ability to adapt to new situations, understand complex ideas, and have a cognitive, cognitive and emotional input. So if we look at artificial intelligence, it is the ability of the machines to perform tasks that mimic human cognition. So learning, problem solving, decision making, recognizing patterns, learning from data, and executing these decisions. That's what artificial intelligence does. Actual intelligence is the ability to do all of that, but using the uniquely human capacity of judgment, empathy, ethical reasoning, and a contextual understanding of uncertainty that often surrounds what we do. The complexity of doing surgery at 2 a.m., tending to an emergency while we are sleep deprived and exhausted, and at the same time making a decision as to whether to operate, to not operate, or to reassure the patient. So artificial intelligence can give you answers, but actual intelligence actually asks the correct questions. So why did we start looking at this now? So I can talk about it from a pediatric surgery point of view. And we can see from a recent publication that the distribution of artificial intelligence in pediatric surgery research is non-existent in sub-Saharan Africa. This is very unusual for South Africans. We have always been at the forefront of all sorts of advances in technology, whether it has been surgical, medical, or any type. But artificial intelligence, for some reason, has lagged behind. It is beginning to play quite an advanced role now in education, but from clinical point of view, it is limited in terms of the work that comes out of this. So we thought that it is important that we look around us, see what is happening in the state of artificial intelligence in pediatric surgery throughout the world, and see how we can use this. So there are many different ways in which we can use this. We can look at it in terms of diagnosis. AI excels at image recognition, pattern matching, analysis. It summarizes evidence. We punch in a whole lot of articles and it'll summarize that evidence for us. But what actual intelligence does, and this is what we've also got to use, is it gives us the ability to notice what's happening around all of that. It makes us notice the mother's anxiety. And often if you speak to pediatricians or pediatric surgeons, they will tell you the child is just off, just does not look right. It's that gut feeling that they have. In terms of surgical decision-making, the advent of AI has propelled robotic systems to the extent that most recently, a couple of months ago, a cholecystectomy was performed on a patient with absolutely no surgical intervention at all. From a decision support point of view, there are 37 decision support tools for appendicitis. An important thing to remember, what my previous mentor told me, was that if there are many operations to deal with one condition, it usually means that none of them are always successful, and we don't know really what we are doing. So if there are 37 different decision support tools, it's unlikely to be very effective. But at the same time, the actual intelligence is required as to knowing when to operate and as to when not to operate. With the robotics, when suddenly the anatomy is different, when the registrar who's wielding the camera uses it like the sword of a pirate on a rough sea, or the nurse is whispering, "I've never scrubbed for this case before," that's when actual intelligence has to take over and help you with those particular cases. Communication is also paramount. As I mentioned earlier, AI can generate very comprehensive summaries. This allows for continuity of care. There is a current program that's available. It's been made available by the University of Birmingham. Many of you can download it if you want. It's completely free. It's called MediScribe, and it does all of this. It sits on, it listens to your consultations, and at the end of it all, it generates exactly what I'm doing with the other bit of software that I mentioned earlier. But Mediscribe is available. It's just been made available recently for free, and it's something that you can use. And it generates great discharge summaries. But what actual intelligence requires is when you hand over that summary to the parents, to tell them that you have done everything you can thus far and explain to them what happens next. In the technology cycle, whether it is cell phones, minimally invasive surgery, in pediatric surgeries have been our most recent technological hype. It doesn't matter which particular technology you look at. This is the sort of graph that you go through. And there are all those groups of tech enthusiasts who will come in early, who are the innovators, the early adopters, and then you will go through a cycle where it will, the actual ideas that you had will start slowly disappearing. It will not achieve all it will achieve. There will be the naysayers, there will be the early adopters. But what is important is that as we go through this process, we will reach a stage where we will reach a plateau, and we will be able to identify and use AI for what it is best suited for. The arrow shows where we sort of currently are in this cycle, and we are still going to reach the dip, which will probably be over the next year or two, and then basically we'll move on. You can go onto Amazon currently, I'm saying Amazon, but you can go into any online store. For $30, you can buy a retinoscope, which will take a picture of your eye, diagnose your glaucoma, diagnose retinal abnormalities, and will provide you with a full report. FDA approved and all available. For another $20 or so, you could add on a simple respiratory monitor onto your cell phone that will, with normal breathing, be able to give you a full pulmonary function test. You can have, for $180, I think, there is a very simple little device already on sale that can perform a simulated mammogram on you at home. For the people who have daughters, who have a wife, who are worried about breast cancer, this is a very simple device that has been approved and can pick up early breast cancer, I think they say with about a 75% sensitivity. It's a simple device, doesn't use X-ray, it uses a form of ultrasound, but it gives you images by using artificial intelligence, which is similar to a mammogram. All this is available at the moment, currently available, and these are parts of the so-called hype, that the hype phase that we are in, but available and registered and sort of are reliable. In fact, also, I think what's very important probably for South Africans is that there is a cervical pap smear device, a very friendly device, apparently that can be used at home for selling for, I think, about $9, that can be used at home to screen for cervical cancer with exceptional accuracy. But I mean, those are basically things that are easily available, just to give you an idea as to where we are in AI now. In terms of looking at AI, we always look at the young people, we look at the college students and the high school students, and 90% of them know about ChatGPT. Most of them use it for their tests at home. When they have homeschooling tests, they write essays, and they can, the researchers or the ones who are in college students, they use it for outlines of the papers. So it is being used quite widely. I'll just go through a couple of examples of where we use AI and how we've been using it. One of the areas that we have been using AI over the recent past has been in terms of whether it can train a doctor, whether it's useful as a study aid. So as an example, we took a question from our question bank. We have an SBA question bank. As many of you are aware, the CMSA has moved towards single best answer type of questions. And initially, we generated questions by asking the registrars and the consultants to do this. And then over a period of time, we have slowly moved to AI and try and expand that bank. So we took a question from the bank, put it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gave us the answer very quickly. So once it gave us the answer, that's great. So it's an easy way to look at it. In this sort of age of AI tutors, the virtual dissections, the chatbots, they can create these custom examinations and they can give us real-time feedback. But what's really important is that once you get an idea as to what the answer is, it then allows you to go on and explore this further. Do you want to know what the rest of it is? Why did it choose that particular answer? It gives you reasons. And then at the same time, it can also offer you reasons as to why the other options do not apply. So the role in education is it's sort of automatic. ChatGPT progresses to provide the explanation, it provides further detail, tells you why the other distractors are incorrect, and the student now hasn't only identified the answer, but he has learned something. So as a study aid, going over these questions is very important. So in a world that is dominated by AI-driven tools and data-driven sort of decision-making, we must not lose sight of the fact that of irreplaceable value of human mentorship. Cello has gone through this, he's mentioned it earlier. There is no algorithm that can replicate what an educator like Prof Lazarus will see after he has guided a registrar through his or her first operation, or he's offered encouragement after a complication. He's managed to shape generations of surgeons through his postgraduate training, his examinations, and mentorship. So although AI has a big role to play in education and improving that, I think we must still remember and not lose sight of the irreplaceable value of human mentorship. So another little hack that you could probably use, and something that we can do, is looking at the journal clubs. We all have journal clubs. People read it, and more often than not, they come back and they reread the abstract to you. And it sometimes makes you wonder what journal clubs are all about. So what I did was I used an article that we had from a very long time ago, that we had published some time ago on not a very common topic, and plugged that into ChatGPT, and then we used a prompt. I've mentioned the prompt before, and this is very important. You've got to tell ChatGPT as to what kind of a persona he or she must adapt. So in this particular one, I wanted the ChatGPT to be a trainee. So a registrar training in pediatric surgery. You've then got to tell ChatGPT what you are looking for. We just wanted 5 bullet points. We want a short summary of this. And then we can look at the response. So when you set up your prompt, you can do that. And we can see very quickly it provided us with a nice 5 bullet point summary of that journal article and looks at it quite effectively. But it doesn't stop there. You can do more. If we have to discuss this at a journal club, there has to be a reason why it's been brought up. We can discuss the message it gives us, but for young registrars, it's also important to know things about how the research project was conducted, what the statistics are, what the background is. So it's very easy to ask ChatGPT about the statistics themselves. Are they correct? What has been used? And now it gives you a background so that when you are looking at your own research project, you know what you can do. And it's important that the response is followed on, because it will often suggest to you another question that you can ask. So if you look at, this was not from the paper that I had plugged in, but it was from a paper that we had been submitted for review to one of the journals that I was an editor on, and it picked up through their normal AI screening on the journals that generative AI had been used in writing the paper. So that's an important aspect that you've also got to remember, that it can be picked up if you just go straight from AI and publish that. We can then summarize publications. I put in a prompt and told ChatGPT, let's use PubMed as a source of all the articles published by the Department of Pediatric Surgery between a certain date and a certain date. I asked it to set the persona as the research librarian, because then it provides more detail. It provides you links to the references and provides you the citations which you can add to something like EndNote, to any bibliography program that you may be using. And it goes ahead and it pulls up all the articles, and then it provides a summary of all the articles together on one particular topic, as well as if you wanted on each one of the articles. And it keeps giving you new sort of prompts that you can use as you go along. You can also use it for other things when you're submitting abstracts. This was an article that we wrote many years ago, and when I was looking at it and trying to pull something up to test out for this particular talk, I found that this really was a verbose article. So I asked it to generate a catchier, shorter title that it could, and it came up with some suggestions which looked quite good to me. Often you have to submit an abstract, which is limited in terms of number of words that has to be used. You can ask it to shorten it, the required word, the word requirement, but obviously then you'll set the persona as a researcher. So I've mentioned a few times about prompts, and this is important something that you have to remember. There are different ways to look at prompts, but the important thing about it is that it must guide the model to the solution that you are looking for. It must be explicit in its instructions. It must ask for lots of options. You must assign the character or the persona, as I've mentioned earlier. Declare the format that you want. You want it presented as a peer-reviewed article, or you can provide examples, and then you can keep trying different systems that you can use. Tracy and Eka are just different methods that you can use, but it's very important to use the correct prompts to get the correct type of information that you are looking for. I have no relation to any of these AI products that I am talking to you about, But they are very useful things, and I thought I'd give you some practical examples that are widely available for free and that you can use. So Biomni is from Stanford University. It's just been released once again as a free software. It is for basic science research. It is completely free, and it automates the process all the way from generating a hypothesis to performing the wet lab experiments for you. It is used for genetics. It is used for protein development, protein synthesis. There are tutorials on it in terms of how you use it, and if you have an interest in that kind of basic science or molecular type of research, it's all available, and it is there free to use. It is what a speaker at the CMSA conference termed from bench to desktop rather than bench to bed type of experimentation. The second one is a little bit more of a sensitive type of topic, AI application. It has been described as being able to do the weekend PhD for you. So it is an artificial intelligence tool that's been developed by the researchers at Stanford. It's available, it's free, but it is something that you can use, and it is structured in the way it takes you through the whole process of establishing generating a hypothesis at first, reviewing the literature, generating a hypothesis, then considering how you would conduct the experiment, doing the statistics, and all the way up to generating a peer-reviewed article for you. Now, if you just do that straight and you send it off, we will pick it up at some of the journals. If it's any one of the journals that we are on, we will pick that up as AI generated. But it forms the basis on which you can work. It gives you the outline. It makes it easier. I mean, nobody has that much time anymore, but you could use that kind of information and you can generate that. Also, once again, easily available, and it gives you an idea as to what the articles are. It's limited to about 100 references, I think, but for pediatric surgery, that's probably the entire textbook. Okay. I've briefly mentioned administration and record keeping. This is important. I can talk about it from a private practice point of view. It has given me, I don't say this to my wife and kids, but it has given me 12 hours a week free. It has reduced the time that I've spent in the office by 12 hours doing paperwork since I've started using it, which is from sort of the middle of last year. And it does things like generating your reports, the letters, it does all of that. There's free agents available, like the Mediscribe that I've told you about. It learns as you use it. They comply with all the POPI requirements and the HIPAA requirements of the United States and everywhere else. So it covers all of that. But it can extract that information, it makes it widely available, and it's something that will probably work very well in the state service because it can be run off your cell phone. And it is an infrastructure because burnout is huge. Burnout's a common problem. It's at an all-time high. I mean, often they point a finger at the administrative burden rather than anything else. So these things are available. The commercially available ones are also not that expensive. So a pediatric surgery unit in East London, for example, could probably pay a 600 Rand a month and have the complete software available for an unlimited number of patient consultations, and can be available to about, I think, 36 users. So they are possible, they are available, and they are affordable. If we look at applications from the cell phone, it has taken years. I mean, the cell phone's been around for many years. It's taken years before we even allow WhatsApp to be used properly. Vula has just been launched, and it's only now beginning to use AI, but even Vula. So the technology is available. The problem with healthcare is that we don't use technology to increase our productivity. And I think that's a big problem and a big difference between technology in the healthcare industry and the other disciplines. Just briefly, we can look at pediatric surgery. There are different ways of introducing AI in operative pediatric surgery. A lot of the surgery we perform is technically difficult, and the numbers of patients that we see are not huge. So one surgeon may only perform between 8 and 10 of those operations a year in a busy practice, and others may only perform 1 or 2. So this is where operative pediatric surgery and the use of artificial intelligence will become more and more useful. And it is being implemented. Later on in this year, the first robot dedicated to pure pediatric surgery using pediatric surgical instruments will be available worldwide, and we may be fortunate enough to get one into the country as well. So it uses mainly its root in imaging and navigation for this particular purpose. For those of us who look after children, and I'm sure for adults as well, there is the third eye. The third eye is the parent's eye. They are watching you. They are coming along. They often have the Google diagnosis that they want you to tackle, but nowadays they will also come with an AI diagnosis that you have to tackle. So you have to look at parental concerns in terms of artificial intelligence. It's variable. This is a busy graph. I think the most important factor here to understand is that most people and most parents still pay or prefer the diagnosis and the attention given by a caring doctor as compared to that by artificial intelligence. There are others, though, who don't believe that. There was a recent publication, I think a few weeks ago, which actually said that all the patient wants when he comes to see you is how quick can this consult be over, how little harm can you do to me, and how can I never see you again? And those are the three top questions in the patient's mind in there. Looking at all of this, we have to understand that there are ethical dilemmas. It's information that is being presented, it's information that is being shared, and it has been recognized that AI is likely to pose considerable problems in terms of ethical applications and ethical principles, to the extent that the World Health Organization has drawn up a consensus on the ethical principles. They are very simple principles. They are principles that we all apply. But what we need to remember and what we need to make sure about is that we must note that AI is limited to the data set from which it is drawn. And that often introduces major bias. So when you're looking at ChatGPT, and if that's the only one that you know you are going to get a Western biased type of information when you query it. At the same time, there are others that are becoming available. DeepSeek is almost equivalent to ChatGPT at the moment, but that will give you an Asian and Eastern bias. So that's important that we somehow try and get South African data or African data or third world data into these systems. People in like the radiology department at Wits University are trying to do that by making the X-ray, the commonly available X-ray AI bots used to our data and doing that. But what's most important about ethics is the Alice in Wonderland story. And when it comes to AI, it's like anything else. When you spend time on Facebook, on Instagram, or even if you go fishing, you go down a rabbit hole because you spend 3 or 4 hours there and there are no fish, or you catch a couple and you're going to catch more and the big one's going to come. So the sun has set, it's time to get back, and you still want to carry on trying it. So you go down this rabbit hole, you become more and more deeply engrossed in something. And often unintentionally, you can end up in a situation that is confusing, it's complex. And when it comes to research, it can be an area that spirals completely out of control. Takes away the focus that you are looking at. And you transition into this bizarre and unfamiliar sort of surrounding, which is very similar to Alice's experience in Wonderland. What's important about that is that when Alice went and dropped down that rabbit hole, she had probably visited the mushrooms, and hallucinations are the most important aspect to consider. You will often find the generated response from any of the engines that you are using are so convincing that you will take what they are saying at the level that they have given them to you. You then go back and look at the references that they are conducting. They have either made up the references, like ChatGPT can make up references, or it can completely quote a reference incorrectly. And that's called hallucinations. And these are instances where the AI systems generate outputs that are completely inaccurate, misleading, and simply nonsensical. And it often presents them as factual and reliable. So the most sort of relevant one for South Africans has been in terms of the courts of law. And recently there have been 2 sets of lawyers who've been struck off or struck down from the bar, I think it's called, because they have submitted AI-generated arguments to a judge. And one of the judges was saying to me that they now have a built-in system that will look at arguments because the judges can't always remember what the judgments were from previous cases. So I don't know whether it's affected the medical fraternity in South Africa yet, but it certainly has elsewhere. So overall, looking at AI, what I've done is just try to give you an idea as to what it is and how you can compare actual intelligence with artificial intelligence, how you can look at what's going on, and some of the actual things that are happening now. So in an age when sort of data is king, AI will certainly help us make quicker decisions. It'll identify the patterns, it'll suggest probabilities, it'll even recommend treatment pathways. One of the areas that I recently heard about is in terms of radiation oncology. apparently the bottleneck in radiation oncology is that there are not enough radiation oncologists who are trained. And the bottleneck comes in terms of the planning of radiotherapy for these patients. And planning of radiotherapy can take a long time. One of the universities, the MD Anderson Center, now has an artificial intelligence bot. I think it's $10 that they will charge you. And you will submit all the requirements that they have for it. And within 2 hours, they will provide you with a radiation plan. If the radiation plan then suits the oncologist, and I think they are looking at exploring this in terms of some of the pediatric solid tumors that we see, but if it can reduce that, then patients will get the radiation. In the Western world, apparently only 50% of patients get the radiotherapy that they need for malignancies. That's outside of my field of expertise, but I mean, those are the numbers that are often quoted. So if you can identify these treatment pathways and sort of streamline that, it then goes on to where actual intelligence comes in, because it can sense something that's not right. It can look at the data that doesn't tell the whole story, and then it uses intuition that is there and fills the gap. So overall, looking at artificial intelligence, I mean, I'm very honored that I was asked to give this lecture to Prof Lazarus. I mean, he personifies actual intelligence. I've said this earlier on. He has taught hundreds of trainees with patience, with precision. He has served as an examiner who didn't just assess knowledge, but he noticed growth. He was my examiner when I took the certificate exam, and he kept me in a room for 12 hours for a subspecialty exam. But he's also taken his love of the outdoors. He's harnessed this energy of cycling, and he's funded the needs of the children of Eastern Cape. So there's very little else I can do except to say yes to actual intelligence. It's the wisdom that has been honed by his experience, his kindness that has been shaped by humility, something that I've experienced over time. And this goes to an educator, the cyclist, a surgeon who proves that no machine can match the journey as long as it's guided by purpose, integrity, and service. So thank you, Prof Lazarus, and everybody else for listening.
Thank you, Samad. It was really very, very interesting and enlightening. And the first time I heard him talk was at our biennial congress at the first weekend of May. And it's not even 4 months. And attending the CMSA webinars on artificial intelligence has really kept me entertained and educated. And even people like me who are close to retirement, we need to learn about artificial intelligence, and we need to use it wisely. I was chatting to Prof Lazarus a couple of days ago, and I said to him, listen, it looks like what laparoscopy was to us when he started it at Cecilia Makiwane in 2003. He said, no, it's more prominent than that. He thinks that it is like what surgery. Previously, there were no operations, and now there are operations. So I think it is a big part of our life, whether we like it or not. And as you correctly said, the person behind the machine and the technology is more important than the technology. So with this, it's my pleasure to invite Professor Colin Lazarus to say a few words about his experience with the university and life in general. Thank you.
Thank you. So, as I look around this room, and I'm aware of many who have joined us here online, I want you to know just how humbled I feel by your presence here of this lecture. In particular, I need to acknowledge the leadership of Walter Sisulu University and its Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, in the presence of our Executive Dean, the leadership of the Department of Health of the Eastern Cape, those representing the leaders of the wider East London and the Eastern Cape community. And of course, my colleagues from our hospital both those of you who are in training and those who are your teachers and role models, and my friends. And I greet those who have joined us online, colleagues, family and friends, both near and far. Samad, I've been honored by your giving this remarkable lecture. You entitled it AI, Artificial or Actual Intelligence. And I think, like everybody in this room, I did try to follow, and I have done so in part. But it is such an important developing field that we can only just touch its edges now. We can understand how artificial intelligence can streamline workflow or enhance patient care in some way. It's difficult to understand and to integrate that knowledge into how we make diagnoses or how we react with patients. Asking the right questions is obviously important. Having that human interface. But there's no question about AI's capacity to enhance patient care in so many, many respects. It also raises the question of whether some of our specialities are going to become particularly vulnerable to the changes that are coming through what is an inevitable part of progress. But what you've done more than anything else is to challenge all of us, no matter what our field of endeavor, to invest into enhancing our understanding of AI and its implications for our daily practice. Must we know we are using AI every day, or we're exposed to it every day. Must we actively be looking at how we can enhance our understanding and use of it as part of our everyday practice? That's a challenge you've left for us, and we thank you. And I thank you for coming today, Samad. I need to thank the team who've set up this meeting. Dr. Zuki Jafta, you are the head of radiation oncology, a full-time, demanding position. Yet you've accepted the Executive Dean's request to lead the Central Deanery at a time of many challenges, and I thank you for this. I believe that you initiated this concept of the honorary public lecture, and with the blessing of the Executive Dean and the work of Prof Kawe and Prof Chitnis, Dr. Patlani, the CEO and others, your team brought this honor to fruition. And I thank you for this. I could never have imagined such a gathering. Thank you. The Executive Dean, I thank you for your words. I'm humbled by them. You have a vision for the direction of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, aimed at establishing a world-class, community-based and research-orientated faculty, a leading health sciences institution shining a light across our continent. That, I believe, is your vision. You offer clear direction, and you demand excellence of all those working with you. In your determination to build a world-class health sciences faculty, I believe, even in these difficult times, you will be successful. It will be a hard road for all who come, but I wish you well. I'd like to pay tribute to my colleagues on the faculty board and on the FASICs. But to start with, I would like to pay tribute to my colleague and friend Lionel Smith, with whom I had come a long way and who died earlier this year. Lionel has held the same responsibilities as I have had in Gqeberha, and he's a man with whom I spent many memorable hours. He was a friend of many, a loving, caring man with a love for his city and for those who were his compatriots, a ready ear for all who were troubled, and a wonderful human being. I've had the privilege of working under or alongside Prof Mokoena, Prof Mazwai, Prof Mphanyana joined us today. In your first term, Dean, and Prof Mbakazi, Prof Dubula as interim Dean before your return, and now your return as Executive Dean. And those senior colleagues who have held the reins in between, like Prof Yogi and others. I think it can be true to say that in my period, in this job, there have been no periods when everything was smooth sailing, moving forward on all fronts. And I've been grateful for the wise counsel of all members of the faculty board and executive. Our meetings have never been easy. In this environment where there's been a need for development and growth, and yet always in a setting of financial and personal constraints. It has been demanding when it's come to clinical and teaching responsibilities and finding the balance between them. But at least we had understood where bodies such as the HPCSA and the Eastern Cape Department of Health were coming from. Done less well, I think, when we were having equally to meet the requirements and expectations of the Department of Education, to whom we are now also responsible. And we struggled over many years to come to terms with these. We've worked alongside the Eastern Cape Department of Health in committees which have had rather funny names, such as the RTIC and similar bodies. And yet, as I look around these meetings, there have been people of real quality and commitment who have inspired and lifted us to greater heights. And it has been such a privilege to be able to work amongst you all. To the staff of the East London Health Resource Centre, Michelle McKay, the CEO and Miranda in the faculty office, Zola and Vava in the library, Anthony and Asive, to all of you. It has been an extraordinary time working with you. Days were never just easy. Challenges, there were aplenty. But I thank you all for the way in which you were happy to forgive my outbursts and for us to get on with work the next day. Just a word now to my colleagues here in East London. And forgive me if I just reminisce a little in the past. It was actually in the late 90s, that sounds a long time ago, when there was a body formed in East London, as we began to wonder how that bush hospital in the foreign country called the Ciskei, whose name was Cecilia Makiwane, was going to work together with the established hospital in the city of East London. And a body got formed which went by the funny name of ELMPAC, East London Medical Postgraduate Advisory Committee. And that body sent me to see high officials in the Department of Health about building what we thought would be a really good idea, a postgraduate medical center. And there was some money available, and there was enthusiasm, but Dr. Castro Stamper said to me, "Not giving you a penny for something that's going to be located only for postgraduate medical work." And out of that came the words Health Resource Centre and a change of direction. And after ours was built, there was evident need right across the province, in Gqeberha, in Tata, in Lusikiseki, and in Komani. We've also come a long way since, under the leadership of Prof Zwa initially, Prof Adekunle, Prof Mfanyana, from Mthatha, and Basil Brown and Sats Pillay from Port, Alan Athston, Jerry Boone, and I from East London, began to meet regularly in this new East London Health Resource Centre to plan and develop our approach to UCT, to start up a postgraduate medical training program. Everybody said, not everybody said, some wondered how it would be possible to add registrar training to our already busy workload. But we started when we did, with 1 year in 4 in some departments, and then 2 years in 4, then 3 in 4, and eventually, as you will know, in many disciplines, here in East London, as throughout the Walter Sisulu University area, we train specialists for their full-time program in a great number of disciplines. As far as I am aware now, since we started the program, 350 or more graduates have emerged from our training programs here under WSU. And if we thought that there were issues in relation to postgraduate training, it was nothing compared to the outcry which I seem to remember hearing when we also had to undertake undergraduate training in East London. And yet, here we are, having successfully managed quite a number of years of postgraduate clinical training. So as I look around me and I try to look online, I need to the East London heads of department pay tribute to you, to each one of you. Difficult to name you all by name, although as I look around, I see many friends. Many outstanding colleagues. If I name Jerry Boone and Andy Parrish, forgive me if I don't mention you all. But these have been two very special colleagues. Talented people, hard-working people, and who have stood by me, taken me by the nose and led me in a proper direction whenever needed. And I'm truly grateful to them and to all of you. And one other person who I need to mention from our training programs. Ellie Grossman, I'm so glad that you're here today. You revolutionized our capacity to undertake postgraduate research. You're a remarkable person, and we and all registrars who've come under your influence have spoken about the great privilege it has been to have you mentor them. So I thank you. And then a final word to my colleagues, to the heads of department, and the consultants in our clinical departments here in East London. It has become an extremely stressful time for all who are working in public sector hospitals here. There are enormous stresses in our country with regard to the funding of our institutions. We have two large teaching hospitals within the province. And everybody, including those of us working here, have felt the crunch. And I think that innovative leadership of your departments is needed more than at any time in the last 3 decades. to a very large extent, you stand between survival and collapse of the health system. I wish you well. I suppose my very final word is to my family, to Sheila, and those who stood by me in these years. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin, for that practical, but also practical advice with emotional flavor. Thanks a lot. So now my job is to invite Dr. Zukiswa Jafta. She was our boss about 15 years ago at Frere Hospital. Now she is an adult oncologist who looks after the entire eastern two-thirds of the Eastern Cape province, and she is still our boss at the university level here. So she is the Associate Dean for the Central Deanery for the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences at WSU. So I invite you to please say a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Good evening. As we come to the conclusion of this enlightening lecture, it is really my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing committee. First and foremost, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished guest, Prof. Samad Sheikh, for sharing your valuable insights and expertise today. Definitely it was interesting to hear about artificial intelligence, actual or artificial. I think that's what we come out today with. Yes, you made a mention of use in radiation oncology. Just to say, we are already ahead. We are one of the few sites that MD Anderson has selected. So our backlog is going to be something of the past. We're busy with their project. The AI is going to do some plans overnight. In the morning, the actual intelligence kicks in, where I need to check those plans if they are okay to be approved. A sincere thanks to the organizing committee for your meticulous planning and coordination. Your hard work and dedication has shown some smooth execution of the project, and I really thank each and every one of you. I also would like to thank our speakers. Firstly, I don't know, now I have to address you, Selo, Dr. Selo Machaya. I thank you for giving such an insight as to how you know and relate to Prof. Lazarus for people that do not know you, and also the discipline of pediatric surgery as a whole. Prof. Chitnis, our program director, has spearheaded a lot of activities for tonight. Where is he? We thank you, Prof. Your hard work and dedication has been noted, and really thank you for all the work you've done for the special evening tonight. First and foremost, I would continue to thank Prof Lazarus. A lot has been said, and tonight you've given us such a nice reflection of what we didn't even know how this Health Resource Center was set up. However, through your efforts and hard work and all the committees you formed, all the management meetings you attended, I think this has benefited more than the 300 specialists you were mentioning. The whole community, you would agree with me, has definitely benefited. I also would like to share with you that most of the specialists or clinicians that are in the Greater Eastern Cape know and are online, and they've learned a lot from you. And I think from the East London community, per se, the baton is already taken over. Thank you so much. We've learned a lot from you: empathy, leading with resilience, professionalism, and overall humility, and a lot of patience that you have to ensure that everybody sees the way where there is no way. We also thank the attendance of our online participants, and most importantly also to acknowledge and thank our founding dean, Prof Labamkwena, who has come all the way to honor this day. And this is beautiful evening for you. To the community and everyone who's in the house, I would like to invite you after this to a dinner that was specially prepared for Prof and everyone who's here, just to honor and have a quick chat with him outside. Lastly, I would like to call upon Prof Lazarus on stage, and I would like to call Mrs. Lazarus and my organizing team. I would like to present this token of appreciation to you, Ms. Lazarus. May I please, Prof Sheikh? Prof Sheikh? Thank you. Would like to thank our executive dean for have made this possible, and to come in person We were not sure that he's going to make it, but this was the surprise for you and everybody else. And I take this opportunity to close, Mostin. This is my central dinner. I can close. I would like to close and thank you so much for your attendance. It was a beautiful evening. I think nobody would have missed this for you, and it shows how special you've been and how many hearts you've touched. Thank you. May you please join us just outside in the foyer for dinner.